Dave Davis, longtime Division II coach, 25 years, made 3 Division II tournament appearances. Pat Kelsey calls him the mad scientist. Says his brilliance is in his simplicity. He says he falls asleep when we're talking sets. Like he's like, let's just go play. Let's go play. We're doing the transition game. He works on the offensive rebounding, also the substitution patterns. And you saw that play right before that whistle. Adonis Arms diving out of bounds to save a ball. I mean, this is just what they want to ingrain in these guys.
Hi, I'm Corey Baldwin.
And I'm Daniel Bowles. We're back with a new Off the Beaten Path, a podcast for basketball coaches living in obscurity, working in obscurity, and even those who have made it out of obscurity.
And it's a place for storytelling. We even have some of those stories that are true. We try not to exaggerate too much, even though we do. A place for learning, connecting, sometimes reconnecting, and food for thought, and my favorite part, food for the belly. And we got a great one today. Dave Davis, who has been pretty much at all levels, and he's won everywhere, and he does it super fast with a lot of points, and he's kind of a legend all through Southeast United States, really everywhere, but especially D2 NAI, JUCO, D3 guys will love this show. So let's go to it, Dave. Tell us a little bit about what got you into basketball. How in the world did you get into this crazy world?
Off the Beaten Path. What an incredible name. Have really enjoyed you guys' shows. I've listened to several of them. Unbelievable fun. I don't know if I'll win the prize for Off the Beaten Path, but I do think I'll at least tie for first. Been a basketball junkie since I've been 6 years old, for sure. Different than most people. By the time I was 10 years old, I realized I grew up in New England that I would not be playing for the Boston Celtics, and just knew really, really early that I wanted to do this. Like God's blessed me in many ways, but I knew, from a very young age that coaching was what I wanted to do. Not necessarily on a college level, really never dreamed that big, but I just knew I wanted to be involved in it. Coached my first team as an 8th grader. I had 7th graders on it. Coached, little leagues and camps all through high school and all through college, and got into it immediately after college, and been doing it ever since. I say I've been coaching 40 years, but really I've been coaching 50 years because I was like a 10-year-old the first time I started coaching. So it's been an interesting journey for sure. So you want me to just kind of take you through high school on, or how you want to do this?
We'll stop right there for a minute. I mean, you kind of knew you had the ability to recognize, at 10 years old, hey, I'm going to coach, not play. Were you diving into coaches you were emulating? Were you guys you idolized? Or was it just, hey, I'm not good enough to play, but I love the game, I'm going to coach it?
No, it's a great story. I love to play. I played till I was 40 years old. I played until I could not play anymore. Played in high school, played in college, played after college. Just was absolutely loved it. The part I knew about play was I was not going to play at the highest level. I was not going to make money playing basketball. So that's how I knew I was going to coach it. But played, and had an unbelievable time doing that, and enjoyed that.
Where did you play in college?
So I grew up in New England. My dad was in textiles. We moved to North Carolina, Western North Carolina, when I was a junior in high school. So Mitchell County. Played every sport in the world. When we were in New England, we played with what was in season. Basketball was my favorite. When I came to North Carolina, I played only basketball because I wouldn't even make the team if I did not. So a thick New England accent Yankee moved to deep Western North Carolina. The two largest differences in the English language dialect in the history of the world. And thought it was the worst thing that had ever happened to me. I'd never lived anywhere else. I'm in the middle of my high school career. My parents uproot me and move me. I'm like, no, I ain't going. Turned out to be the best thing to ever happen to me. Completely and totally focused on basketball. Once I moved there, had 2 good high school years, and then went to the only school that would take me, and that was Warren Wilson. in Asheville, North Carolina. It was about an hour from where we lived, and no scholarships, none of that. It was the National Little College Athletic Association. It doesn't even exist now. It was for schools with 500 males or less. Warren Wilson has not had success in basketball very often. We went to 2 national tournaments when I was there. We had 9 freshmen come in the same year, and 7 stayed the whole time. And unbelievable experience. I would not trade that for getting to play in the ACC now. That's how much fun we had. We had an unbelievable team who loved and cared deeply about one another, and we hooped every day, and just had an unbelievable experience there. Came out of there and took a high school job, the only one that would give me a high school job. I was really, really late about the time school started. I coached 3 years in high school. When I came out of Warren Wilson, I was the most confident coach maybe in the history of basketball. All you had to do was play for me, and then you would be a great player and we would be a great team. And God has a way of humbling us all. We went 1 win, 21 losses in my first year as a head high school coach. I learned everything I did not know, and been doing things like this and clinics and reading and all that kind of stuff ever since, to try to learn as much as I can every year, including now 40 years later. But
what high school was that?
South Stanley, kind of in the middle of North Carolina. Great people. Was a football, baseball school, not a basketball school. Had no one on the team that basketball was their sport first. They played something else, and then they played basketball. Great kids, loved them. Worked really hard, but just was not a great situation. So I was coaching the varsity team, the JV team, varsity football, JV football, and tennis. And then Pam, my wife, and I started a little league program because they didn't have a little league basketball program in the area. And one of the reasons they weren't very good. So we started doing that on Saturday mornings and getting K-8 kids in there. And might be the most fun I've ever had in basketball was running that little league, and all those kids with energy on Saturday morning running around and all that kind of stuff. So was there 3 years, had a little bit of success, but realized that was never going to be a program where we could win at a high level. I was not mature enough. I'm still not mature enough to handle that. Like, I couldn't handle not winning. And I lost about 20 pounds, and I was in shape in those days. So I said, I just went to the principal, great guy, and told him, I just can't do this anymore. I'll keep teaching. I'll keep coaching football and tennis. I just can't do this. So I stopped coaching basketball as maybe the biggest basketball junkie in the history of the world, with no other job or opportunity in basketball. A couple months later, Bobby Lutz got hired at Pfeiffer. Tom Childress was the AD there. I had coached against his sons in high school. He was always saying nice things to me after games. So I asked him, would he introduce me to him? He said, absolutely. And I went up there, I met Bobby Lutz, and I just really needed a basketball fix. I wasn't trying to get into college basketball. I wasn't even trying to coach college basketball. I just wanted to come watch his practices and try to learn from somebody. He said, well, why don't you help? And man, I was a kid in the candy store with that. So did that. I was a volunteer for him for 3 years. He's one of the best in the business ever. He's the all-time winningest coach at Charlotte. And changed my mindset completely. Going back to the question you asked earlier, Corey, who influenced you, all that kind of stuff. I was reading everything. So John Wooden, Dean Smith were my guys. I'm reading everything they had as a kid growing up, and I'm going to be Dean Smith and John Wooden put together. And I got on the sidelines and I tried to be that. I've heard many people on your podcast say this, trying to be somebody else, right? Well, I think that John Wooden and I and Dean Smith and I have many of the same ideas and philosophies. But if you put us on a spectrum on how you coached the game of basketball, they would be on one end and I would be as far away from that as possible. And after being a high school coach, maybe at the end of that, or, as I got with Coach Lutz, it was, he was like, just be who you is, man. You got to be yourself. And once I started doing that, it was a lot more fun. And I'm crazy. I'm emotional. I'm loud. I'm get after it, all that kind of stuff. And you never saw that. John wouldn't even speak sometimes in the game. Dean Smith was always the calmest guy in the world. But at any rate, Coach Lutz was an unbelievable influence on me there. We were building a program from scratch there. The job came open at Warren Wilson. They called me. Again, no plan at all. Even when I'm volunteering for Coach Lutz, which I could have done forever, it was so much fun. I was never thinking I'm gonna be a college basketball coach. I'm just getting my basketball fix. I just need my fix, And so I go up to Warren Wilson, and we're head coach there for 2 years. We were playing in the Tennessee Virginia Athletic Conference. All those guys had scholarships. Some of them had, like Lee had 9 full scholarships. We had work study. That was our only form of helping the kids. And so it really taught me a lesson, especially about what the world thinks of coaching. Like the best coaching jobs are done when your team's supposed to win 5 and you win 10, or your team's supposed to win 10 and you win 15. Yeah. Now, the administrator don't get that. The fan don't get that. Mom and dad definitely don't get that. But when I look back on 40 years of coaching, I've been on teams that won 31 games, 30 wins, played an NCAA tournament, all this unbelievable stuff. I think the best coaching job I ever did was at Warren Wilson, and we won 10 games and 12 games in my 2 years there, because we should not have won a game. Go ahead.
Now, Warren Wilson, we got to stop you there. I know Bowles is biting at the bit. Warren Wilson, now the stories are legendary of teams that go up there and play. Warren Wilson is a college, am I correct, where they grow their own food that they...
Yeah, it's all it's similar to Berea, except extremely more liberal. I joke we came into the 1960s at Warren Wilson and we never left.
It feels like a ski lodge. We went and played there. It felt like we were in a ski lodge. It's like, all right.
Unbelievable, beautiful campus. Again, wonderful people. Everywhere I've been, it's been unbelievable, the people that I've got to meet and form relationships with. But everybody works on campus there. So like every student has a job, and you basically do all the labor on campus. If it's electrician or plumbing, there's a person there that's certified and teaches you and all that kind of stuff. But it's really neat. It's like that you just learn this. Everybody's going to help each other. Like people wouldn't trash the dorms because their buddy was going to have to clean it up. It's like, so there was this camaraderie, and athletics had no, as a high school basketball player, high school football player, you're kind of like the dude, you're the man, you feel like you're something. Like at Warren Wilson, it didn't matter what you did, art, music, whatever, everybody loved each other, cared about each other, but you weren't any better or anything like that. So it gave me great perspective, both as a player there and as a coach there.
What did, looking back, when you left Pfeiffer, what did the people at Pfeiffer think when you went to Warren Wilson? And were they like, what are you doing over there? Or were they just proud that, you were able to get a head job? Or what were some of those conversations like?
It's a great question. There are many things that I have done, Corey, in my life where I or Pam and I were the only people on earth that thought we should do that. How we played, how we substituted, how we this, how we that. And I would say going to coach at Warren Wilson was like one of those, that's where coaches go to die. You're going to end your career, all of those kind of things. But it was never the goal for me. The goal was just the process. The goal was just an opportunity. The goal was just loving kids and finding a way to help them grow. To teach life through a game that we love. And one of my best friends in the world, one of the people I admire the most in the world, is a player that played for me, at Warren Wilson, Martin Colson. And, just those kind of relationships that you build are unbelievable. So I did 2 years there, same thing as South. I realized, even though we are excelling at a level we probably shouldn't be, you're never going to win championships here. Coach Lutz asked me to come back to Pfeiffer as a full-time assistant and golf coach. So I did that. I actually coached golf for 9 years, both as an assistant at Pfeiffer and when I came back. to Pfeiffer as the head coach, and I coached lacrosse 1 year at Pfeiffer. I was when I was in New England, I played lacrosse for 2 years, and so whenever that happened, they had to fire a coach and just needed somebody to do it for a season before they hired somebody because it was really late and all that kind of stuff. So because I had played 2 years of high school lacrosse, it made me, one of the most mature and formalized lacrosse people in the South at that time. Now everybody's playing it, but and have relationships with the guys on that team to this day. Had people who have gone on incredibly successful in life and in coaching that are on my coaching tree, from that. And so that was good. So came back there.
Now, how long were you the assistant when you came back?
2 years. 2 years. We had built it before I left. We got really, really good. We went Elite Eight, Final Four, and then had a couple of years later had a national championship game. We lost when we lost. Everybody we lost to won the national championship. So I got like 6 years where we lost in the Elite Eight, Final Four, national championship game, when the team we lost to was, the team that ended up winning the national championship. So been very, very close, but never won it. But really exciting stuff. So again, back with Coach Lutz, who's unbelievable. I went to Hawaii. That story would take about an hour, so I'm not telling that one. Came back from that trip, walked into Coach Lutz's office. He said, "You don't want the head job at Barton, do you?" I said, "Nah, this is too much fun. I'm going to hang out with you another year, and then maybe I might look for a head job." Go upstairs, open my mail, start thinking about it. I said, I've never had an interview. Maybe I should just go to Barton and interview. Come back downstairs. I go, yeah, why don't you see if they'll interview me? So he calls them. I go home. The phone's ringing when I walk in the door. I answer it. Go down to Barton. This is after school has started. Their coach has left. Another really weird situation. All my jobs, I've almost never been looking for a job. It just happened for me. And and this was one of those cases. And so I meet with the president on my interview, and then the president says, Dean Smith and Bobby Knight have called me about the same guy for this job. And I'm asking myself, why am I sitting in here then? And Dean Smith and Bobby Knight were naming all the coaches in the country at that time. And so anyway, they hired me, spent 3 years there, thought I would stay there forever, loved it, great people again. Pfeiffer tried to get me to come back the year before I actually went, and we decided we were really happy. Then Barton started doing some funny stuff with financial aid and budgets, like all the places I've been, small privates, enrollment driven. The money parts never go forward. They only go backwards. So my daughter was getting ready to start kindergarten, and we thought Pfeiffer was a better place to raise a family. So Pfeiffer offered again 2 years in a row, went back to Pfeiffer, spent 14 years there as the head coach. Tell a Steve Ritter story when I was at Barton and when I was at Pfeiffer. Listened to his podcast the other day. We went down there and played in the middle school gym 2 different times. One of those times I had a kid that made 10 threes. It was a little tournament, 14 tournament. I had a kid make 10 threes one night, 11 threes the next night. When I was,
he liked the middle school rim.
Yeah. When I was at Barton, I've been unbelievably lucky with assistant coaches too, guys that make no money when they're with me, volunteers, just like I did, just like you did. So I'm at Barton, my assistants are Matt Painter, Mark Downey, who's an unbelievable D2 coach, has been a D1 assistant everywhere. Mark Adams, who was the associate head coach at Elon. Those were my assistants on that. So
that's pretty good staff.
Yeah, unbelievable. So we go down to Steve's place again. This is not the make 10 threes, 11, but another time, just down for a one game, we try to take the kids' places. Went to Florida, and Matt Painter was my assistant, and I'm flipping out as we go to halftime. Somebody did something wrong, and I'm just losing my mind. Where the coaches gather, the players go in the locker room, coaches gather and talk about whatever you're going to talk to the guys about at halftime. I'm losing my mind. And Matt Painter goes, "Coach, we just scored 70 points in the first half. Will you calm down? So that 84-foot gym that Steve was talking about helped our fast-paced game and our press and trap game.
You were probably trying to get that gym moved up to your place. Like,
That's right. Just stay right here. We'll come every year.
Now, Coach, I gotta stop you on this one. So I hear 10 threes, I hear 11 threes, I get 70 points and a half. I know we're going to talk about it later, but how in the world did you come up with your philosophy, your style? You know, you're going right from playing in college to coaching a high school. Did you pick it up from Coach Lutz? Is it just, I like playing this way? Like, where did it come from? Some of these stats we can look at later are unreal.
Yeah, when I was a high school coach, it was, you know, pass it until you get a great shot. It was motion offense. It was, you know, work, work, work. I had those kids so scared to shoot the basketball that when they finally shot it, it had no chance of going in. I got with Coach Lutz and he's like, let it fly. And he gave our kids so much confidence and he believed in them. And then they believed in themselves so much. It really changed the whole way I thought about the game of basketball. And he was a fast-paced guy for sure. When he was at Charlotte, and this is the difference between philosophy and your job as a coach, in my opinion. Coach wants to, you know, he wanted to run and he wanted to press and he, you know, not as crazy as we did it later, but that was his mindset. Like that, if you said, what's Bobby Lutz's philosophy? That was it. He's at Charlotte and he's in the league with Patino at Louisville and that Conference USA was ridiculous then. The guy that just got let go at Georgia, he was at Marquette then.
great.
Calipari was at Memphis. I mean, and he had a winning record against those guys. And but he never played fast at Charlotte because it wasn't, and this is what I think our job is as coaches, we have to take the group we have, and then we have to give them the best chance for success, regardless of how we feel the game of basketball should be played, right? So now you can recruit to your team and your philosophy for sure, and hopefully you can make that match. But I think we do have to look at our team every single year and decide, okay, what we did last year might not be the best thing for this team. You know, let's take a look at that. But Daniel, back to your question was, you know, that play hard, get after it, take charges, dive on a floor for a ball. I mean, that was the way I played. That was my mindset. If anybody didn't play like that, they were the devil. And that was just my mindset. So it fit, right? It fit. So I just kept studying and trial and erroring and do it again. And just kept making it more and more simple, to be quite honest with you. I spoke at a clinic one time and the guy before me said, simplicity is the greatest form of genius. And I was the next speaker. So I stood up and said, then I am the smartest man in basketball. Because what we did, and still do actually, even on the Division I level, is so incredibly simple offensively, especially defensively. It gets a little bit more technical and difficult, but I'm not sure if that answered your question or not, Daniel.
Oh no, it's, you know, it's looking at all the stats. It's just, it's a crazy thing to look, but part of that, I guess, is how do you know when you got a team that's just that team? I'm looking on here, your 2009 Pfeiffer team averaged 103 points a game. Yeah. At what point do you just know, hey, I'm going to let these guys go and I'm getting out of the way?
You know, I think we were ahead of our time on many things. Like we went positionless basketball, mostly out of necessity. Obscure Pfeiffers in Meisenheimer, North Carolina, population 300, suburb of Richfield, population 700. You weren't convincing many people to come there. They were coming because they had nowhere else to go. We went 31-3 one year, had not one player on the team that was recruited by anyone else. 5 guys ended up playing professionally. We had 3 All-Americans on that team. You know, we just found a way to play that gave us a chance to win against teams that were better than us, I think, or more talented than us, or certainly more traditional. So it worked unbelievably well when people played a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5, which everybody was playing in those days, right? That was what everyone said you did. You played people by position, and we played 4 guards all the time, 5 guards some of the time, and just pressured the mess out of you, ran the mess out of you, drive it. It was the dribble drive before it became famous. Attack the rim by pass or by dribble, share the basketball, take great shots, and then we sent 4 to the offensive glass, which we've been doing forever and even have done on the Division I level. And that combination of all that produced some pretty good things. But we didn't have great players. We had people who could make wide open threes. We had some people who could really drive the basketball at times. And then, we convinced them that our 10 to 12 guys playing will be better than their 5 to 7 guys playing. And such a hard thing to do, as you know. And even on the Division I level with Pat Kelsey, we've played at least 10 guys a game, sometimes more than that, which is another thing that's different and really rare in the game. But it was get guys that can shoot the basketball, hopefully get some guys that can drive the basketball, and then really share the basketball.
Now, I've heard some wild stories about how people tried to slow you guys down. I got to hear if there's any truth in these.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. They did. We started pressing on misses. We could control tempo as long as we were making baskets, and we made baskets a lot. So I've joked forever, my teams have hit a lot of deficiencies by making shots, and it's the truth. But when we weren't making shots, they got to walk the ball up and control tempo. I said, I got to figure out some way to do this. And we ran team camps and stuff. I saw a high school team that was pressing on misses in team camp. So I got that guy and I said, all right, tell me what you're doing. And he told me, and he was more psycho than I was. But it gave me some really, really good ideas. So we put that in. And once we started pressing on maids and misses, it was almost impossible for you to control tempo because we were guarding you in the backcourt with our back to the sideline. So we're basically telling you, hey, here's the basket, go get it. So we're trying to just speed you up. And then once they cross half court, or we would trap them in different places, half court below the free throw line, then we're running another guy at them. Basically, it was, you're never going to get to run anything in the game against us you've ever practiced unless you practiced it specifically for us. We're going to do this every day. You're going to do this once, twice, or 3 times a year. We think that gives us an advantage. So it wasn't just different, it was so different. And then you couldn't prepare for it. When I was at Pfeiffer, I came back from Barton, was the head coach at Pfeiffer for 14 years. We were playing conference games Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. And you had to take a day off in NCAA. So you had one day to prepare for us. There was no media timeouts. You were tired when you arrived for our game, and then you had to play at that pace for 40 minutes. So yeah, it was great, but there were also a lot of outlying conditions like no media timeouts, 3 conference games a week in January and February, and we would be tied or losing at halftime and win by 20. I'll bet that happened 50 times.
The amount of runs that happen in your style has to make the other team suicidal, I would think.
Yeah.
If they're not used to it.
They really got to use their timeouts. They got to play people they're not used to playing. Mm-hmm. Those people are not used to playing against pressure. It's a system that works, in my opinion, at any level, but the lower level and the lower the skill, the more it works. So it's better in high school than it is in college. It's better in girls basketball than it is in guys basketball. It's better in middle school than it is in high school, because what you're doing is the defensive part of it is you're exploiting poor ball handlers. So you're trying to get the ball in their hands and then make them dribble and do something crazy. And the first year we did it, I'll tell this story. We played Johnson C. Smith as our last game before Christmas. Steve Joyner, unbelievable coach, been coaching longer than me, just been there forever. And they couldn't shoot that year. They did not have a good shooting team. So I was going to be a coach that night, and we played 2-3 zone, and they missed for 37 minutes. I mean, like 3 or 4 threes in the last 2 minutes of the game and beat us by 1. In D2, in JUCO, you'll go home for what feels like a month at Christmas, right? So I'm stewing over that the whole time. I'm like, okay, I ain't the smartest dude in the world. And we may lose another basketball game in my coaching career, but we are never, ever going to lose again on our heels. We're never going to lose again sitting back. So by the time my players got back, I was ready to rip things off the wall and that. So I was so fired up. And we went to, and we had been pressing some, and we definitely had been fast break some, but we went all out at it.
What year was that for you at Fife?
I think it was 99, 2000. So it's like maybe my 3rd or 4th year back as the head coach there. So we start pressing and we weren't pressing on misses yet, but we were pressing wildly, and we forced 28 turnovers a game. We averaged 102 points a game, and we won 19 in a row from the point we went all in on our, what is our system, I guess, today. So when I'm speaking at clinics, I tell people, if you're going to make a change, if you're going to put something in, the best way for it to work is win 19 in a row right after that. Because
everybody can be.
Your players will really believe in you then.
And then being the great thing of coaching, then they ask, well, why didn't we do it before this?
Exactly.
That's the only question they have then, right?
No doubt. No doubt.
So
Right, now
how many people really think that you're just crazy? Because I get that sometimes. How many people really just think like?
It's amazing, Corey, you and I have done this several times where we just sit down and talk hoop, and I do that not daily, but I would say weekly is probably fair with coaches. And at that time when we were having so much success, everybody wanted to come in and see it. But Bart Lundy was the coach at Queens. We had unbelievable rivalries with them, and we were not friends. We didn't even speak to one another when we were going at it. But a few years later, and we weren't coaching against each other, we talked. He said it took us 3 years to figure out what you were doing. And I said, that's because we did it wrong. That year that we forced 28 turnovers a game. So the season ends, right? And I'm going to stack my VCRs on top of one another and make an edit so I can show people what it is we're doing. Well, I could not find 5 possessions in the season where 5 guys did it right. We did it wrong. And this is what I learned. We did it wrong, but we played so hard that people were just giving it to you. I mean, you made them play at a pace that they were so uncomfortable with. And even if they were comfortable with it to start with, they got tired so quickly that then they couldn't do it. And then fatigue took over. And so then you get, okay, I want to do this, right? So everybody wants to come in now they want to do this. So you're talking to coaches about doing it. And I'm telling it, it's really hard to stay with if you don't have immediate success. And why don't people do this? Like why would you guard the basketball 94 feet away? It has no chance to score. People don't understand that. I understand why they don't understand that, but you have to play so hard for this to be successful. I tell our players every day, listen, I'm setting you up for failure every single day, unless you play absolutely as hard as you can. And then we're going to really wear people out. But if you don't, it's you're giving up a whole bunch of stuff. So it's a very high risk, high reward, and you can't tiptoe into it. Like, it's not something you put on and off. I don't think you can make adjustments so you're not doing exactly the same thing every time. But you better be into this because it is the cumulative effect. It's the second half of the game philosophy. It's a second half of the season philosophy. When people start getting hurt and start getting worn down, you can really, really hurt people with it.
All right. So I want you don't have to give me a name, but I just want to confirm or deny. Did you have opponents that would purposely spill things on the floor to try to slow you down?
All kinds of things. Mike Leader at Longwood, they were really, really good. They went 13, I think it was 13 for 17 from three against us at Pfeiffer one time and lost the game. Dip Mitra's team shots, when he was at Belmont Abbey, shot 68% from the field and lost. Turnovers don't get equated into a lot of parts, but your people would turn it over, and we would turn the turnover into a bucket pretty darn quickly. So, but Leader had his guys tie their shoes every whistle. Someone on their team different would tie their shoes. My head was about to pop off my body. I am just screaming at the officials, bring their shoes over here. I'll tie them for them. They won't become untied again. But there were certainly all kinds of ways. And people would hit the ball, after it goes in. So we ran on maids and misses. So either let them hit in the head like North Carolina did, or that was and that would blow me. I would just be on the officials, and I said, they're teaching them to do that. You know that you got to stop that from happening. But there were lots of ways of trying to slow what we were doing down.
I heard a good story one time. Leader said they would have all these arguments about who was the best incoming team and who signed the best people when he was in your league, and no one would ever mention you. And he would finally, they went through a lot of teams, and he was like, well, who's going to win it again with some small white guys that we don't even know. So I don't know why we're having this argument about who's the best guys coming in. It's whoever his guys are. We don't even know who they are, but trust me, they'll end up being the best ones.
Yeah, I don't know how many times it happened, but I feel like it's less than 5 times that we beat someone on a recruit. Like it was almost always, finding somebody who was under the radar that, we thought would play hard or could shoot or, something like that. And
so you were the true Rodney Dangerfield of college coach. Come on, give me respect, man.
No, it was definitely different. And for me, I think for everybody, it's the most fun way to watch basketball. It's the most fun way to play basketball. For me, it's the most fun way to coach basketball. But almost no kid in the history of basketball, if you said, hey, do you want a fast break? Do you want to play fast? The answer is always yes. Then the next question is, do you understand how hard you have to work and how hard you have to play to be successful? Yeah, lots of people can do it. And, there's lots of schools that score lots of points. We weren't doing it to score lots of points. We were doing it to find a way to win the game. And I think there's a difference in that. There's a lot of teams that score high points, but they don't win games, don't win championships.
I think the conditioning part scares a lot of guys off when you first do it.
Sure.
Even if you do it through basketball, I know a lot of people get mad. I'm still old school. We still run outside some, but even if you run with a ball in your hand, if you're running a lot, they tend to look at you like you're crazy. That's not what my trainer does that I pay, right? That's not what my trainer does that I pay. We just do drills. What are you doing?
At least half of our practices, were full court. So there was a lot of conditioning in practice. I used to do when I first got it, everybody had this track programs and run outside, and I did all that. The first year we didn't do that. We were 18-0 in the league, and I just felt like we were fresher at the end of the year. Then we started subbing 5-5. Okay, I did that in a scrimmage also at Johnson C. Smith, ironically. For the very first time, just because I wanted to see people play and all that kind of stuff. The more I did it, the more I loved it and found ways that it was helpful. But what I really found, Corey, was I don't have to really get them in great shape. I just got to get them tough enough to play 2 minutes as hard as they can and then rest them. These guys were going in every 2 minutes, and they just had, they kind of knew no matter what happened, they were coming out in 2 minutes. So, we had to empty the tank every time you go in the game, just empty the tank. Then I went to first guy that lets up, you're all coming out. They're like, what? I'm like, Coach, why are we coming out? I said, John wasn't playing hard enough. He said, well, take John out. I said, go talk to John. So you also created a camaraderie among a smaller group of guys on your team that, listen, you better not let up because I'm coming out of the game if you do. And,
That's hilarious.
it's just another way you're just trying to find little different ways to get them to play a little bit harder, a little bit tougher.
Now, what's the, I don't even know the right word to say this, 66 points in a half at North Carolina, 50 points at Duke. In a half, 56 against Purdue. Number one, what does that feel like? I mean, and then I guess number two, how do you convince your kids, hey, this is how we play, and hey, it's going to work against these blue bloods? Like how does that even happen?
I really, you won't believe this, but I really do believe. I believe, again, our offense was basically 4 guys sprint down the floor to 4 spots and don't move. Rim runner really worked to get the basketball 4 around 1. We didn't do anything complicated. And this is what coaching is, right? Like there's 100 different ways to win in basketball, right? Offensively and defensively. How are you successful? You convince the group of people that you have that this is going to work. And then hopefully it does. And I believe that as simple as this is, that unless you turn it over, you're going to get a great shot. You might not always make the great shot. That's why you send forward the offensive glass, because when you don't make the great shot, then get the rebound and get another chance for a great shot. But actually, the Power Fives have a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5. Well, I know it's going to work against that because 3 of those guys aren't going to be able to guard our dudes. So we scored 89 on Frank Martin's Final Four team. Almost beat them at the beginning of that season. And at that time, I don't know if it's still true, it was the most points ever scored on a Frank Martin coach team. 66 against North Carolina was just ridiculous. We had a kid, DeMario Greer, had 29 in the second half. We made crazy shots in that game. And then 50 on Duke was really cool because only 3 Division I teams even scored 40 on that team. That was a national championship year, I think 2008 maybe. And they were really playing defense in K's best defensive teams. So it was really cool. And that obviously helped in recruiting and helped in selling your team, right? Okay, it's great. We're competing for NAIA and D2 national championships, and we can play with anybody on this level. But when we get a chance to play against these big timers, this is what we've done. So it's been time tested, but it's also been tested against, what you would think North Carolina, Duke, Purdue, thought of South Carolina and Frank Martin thought of as some of the best defensive teams in the history of basketball, that if it can work against them, then it really can work against anyone.
I love it. I love it. So take us a little bit back to the path, but a little bit off again. You were at Pfeiffer 15 years as a head coach, but how many years total were you there, counting some of the years you bounced back and forth? 19
years over 3 stops, 3 years as a volunteer, 2 years as a full-time assistant, and then 14 years as a head coach.
That's awesome. And that's kind of been neat with your runs. You've had some stops that were long. I know a lot of people imagine anytime you have success, you bounce a lot, and you did bounce some, but man, you had 2 stops that were real long,
And I said it those times and meant it. I'll never leave Pfeiffer. I love it. This is great. Why would I want to do anything else? I got to Newberry. I would never leave it. And I said it and I meant it. So now I say never say never.
So that takes us, when you were at Pfeiffer, one more thing I wanted to cover, your camps. You had probably, I worked for Coach Gordon Gibbons. He was known as a camp guy. He used to joke and say that he coached college basketball to cover up his real job running camps. Yeah. I think you were also like that. Kind of walk us through how that got going and what made them get so big. And
just like everything that is successful in the world, relationships. Daniel, you're with Frederick Hurt, right? Like, he's one of the best people, best coaches I know. I tried to hire him several times at Pfeiffer, and it was a reunion. Coach Lutz had started team camps when I came back. We were running team camps, and we just kept building them. And it just turned into this great camaraderie among high school coaches and among us that we didn't even invite. We basically, if a coach called and had a friend that wanted to come, we would let them in, because everybody came back. Like it was not at great facilities. It was they were not staying in nice dorms. You know, we did a hospitality room at night for coaches, and we had a blast with all of that. And the coaches, there was this great camaraderie among the coaches while we were there. Those guys helped each other with scouting throughout the whole year and different teams, especially at playoff times, and just built it into this enormous thing with no help from the schools I was working at. We even moved it several times to different places, but everybody kept coming no matter where we were. And it wasn't super expensive. We were probably the most inexpensive camp that it could be. And then we were, my wife was never thrilled about this part, but she was completely fully bought in, helped us run them and all that. But we were using that money to finance our programs. I was running the basketball and the golf program at Pfeiffer with that money because they just didn't have budgets, and we weren't doing anything extravagant, but just to kind of get by and feed them pizza and all, as all of us are been trying to do. So yeah, that was just amazing. And we had the COVID year when I was at Winthrop. We had we moved from Winthrop to College of Charleston before this happened. We had 100 teams coming to a 1-week camp at Winthrop, and it was just all the guys that I had, just formed relationships with and built relationships with over the years and years. And there was no design to that. Just treat people right, and relationship building, I would say, is the whole deal there.
So that took you, that took you to Newberry, but what took you to Newberry? Was it similar? Was it just time to go? The school kind of ran its course? Yeah,
I would say that was it. It every year we would do better. And every year it would get worse in terms of scholarships and budgets, and nobody was out to get us. It was just, that they're enrollment driven schools. If the enrollment's not there, the money's not there. Nobody was hiding money or anything like that. It was just harder for them. So then it got harder for us. So it came to the point where, we were really worried, really about getting paid next month. And certainly that, we're doing better. It shouldn't get worse.
That's tough.
So that was one of the very few times I was looking for a job, and Brad Edwards was the AD. He's at George Mason now at Newberry, and he hired me and went down there, and they told me what it was with scholarships, and I understand financial aid, so I really took a look at that. The budget was considerably better. It was not a great job at Newberry, but it was a great job compared to Pfeiffer, and I said, I don't need much to be happy. I'm really happy with what you're telling me here. Just tell me that this will never go backward. I will not ask for anything more than you're giving me come through the door. Next year, I'm not coming looking for more. I'm going to just the same. And he said, we will never go backward. And he left a year or two later, and it went backward every year at Newberry as well. But that was just all part of the deal that so many of us have faced. But so Newberry was incredible. It was again starting a program over. I never told you the start of the Pfeiffer program. So we took the Pfeiffer job as the head coach on June the 4th, and we had one player eligible returning. So it's June, and we don't know. So my assistants there were Rob Moxley, who was associate head coach at Charlotte, later assistant at Maryland with Gary Williams. And Michael Longobardi, who's been in the NBA for probably 15 years now, won a championship with the Celtics and coached LeBron in Cleveland. The year that I think it was David Blatt, they fired the international coach at Cleveland and moved Tyronn Lue up. And Tyronn Lue and Michael had worked together. Michael got fired at Phoenix. They brought him in mid-year at Cleveland, and he was the defensive coordinator. And that was the year Golden State just missed shots, and Michael got all the credit for defending those guys so great. I said, Michael, what are you doing down there? He said, they're just missing. But at any rate, so there's 3 of us in there. We called everybody we knew on earth and somehow got a team together. We won 16 games that year. We won a tournament at North Florida. They played us in the first round because, you know, they thought we were going to be terrible. And a great memories there. So then on to Newberry, and another unbelievable place, a small town America. I'm not sure what the population of Newberry is, 5,000-10,000, very small, great place. We call it the center of the universe. So I'm coming from Pfeiffer, right? Meisenheimer's 300 people when school's not in session. Richfield's next door, 700. I told people, I said, I'm the only person who's ever moved to Newberry thinks I'm living in a city. So I've lived in small places for sure, but I did great things at Newberry, comparatively speaking. They had not had back-to-back winning seasons in 31 years when I got there. We had 7 straight win seasons. We won 2019, 18, set all kinds of win records, but we're not winning championships like we did at Pfeiffer, but still had an unbelievable run there. And it got the same kind of things were happening. Budgets were coming down, scholarships were coming down. It was getting tougher and tougher. And then the league was getting better. Lincoln Memorial and Queens just, you know, it was a mid-major league. And so it made it harder and harder there. So just got a text out of the blue one day from a former assistant, you know, would you ever consider being an associate head coach? And again, different. I never had a college basketball aspiration. I definitely never had a Division I aspiration. Coach Lutz tried to get me to come over to Charlotte a few times. I just never felt, I just really felt so comfortable in the small college setting, and could spend time with my players, love them, and my own family, and just great balance, and loved all of that. And but my kids were grown and out of the house, and really I was thinking, you know, I'm probably not going to do this very much longer. If I'm going to do it, you know, just one more year, why don't I try this? So 2 years with Coach Kelsey at Winthrop, we won the regular season and the tournament championship, qualified for 2 NCAAs. First one got wrecked because of COVID, but we ran the break, and he was already playing like that, but, you know, convinced him of some things we were doing. And then we really offensive rebound. We're top 10 in the country offensive rebound all 3 years. Division I, led the league in scoring all 3 years I was with him. Division I. So so I think that's 39 or 40 years in a nutshell of this crazy business. And I have enjoyed almost every minute of it. And just an incredible run.
When you went to Winthrop, you kind of said it, you know, it wasn't something you dreamed of, being a Division I coach, but you've had so many other guys under you, and we'll show the tree. Unbelievable guys, GM with the Bills. You got all these guys that have coached, head coaches of Division Is, MBAs, Division IIs, NAIs, JUCOs all over the country, assistants, et cetera, et cetera. But when you got there, was it more happy for those guys? Were they kind of hitting you up like, hey man, welcome to the show that you got us to? Or was there any of that going on a little bit, or no?
Oh yeah, definitely. So many different people, you know, from so many different places, and you know, they always felt like it would work, right? Like, this will work. It will translate. And then the other part of it that was kind of different, that was neat, was can you do offensively if you don't do what you do defensively, right? Great question. I said, I always answered that question. I think so, because we would run our fast break offense in walk it up the floor type situations, right? So it worked in that. But Coach Kelsey's a pack line guy and really, really good at it. Learned a ton from him. So the answer to that is yes. Even though you don't press and trap, you still can fast break like that, and you still can put pressure on people like that and make it work. But yeah, I think there was a lot of people that were certainly happy for me, and it was was great for me because I went from what you're doing, Corey, and that is, worried about 100 different things simultaneously to getting a small group, just you can really focus on some things. And that's what I got to do, with the fast break and in offensive rebounding. And I substituted the team and played more people than anybody's ever played in Division I before. And the kids bought into it. And then of course we won. So that made them buy into it even more.
Two quick ones. I know Bowles has got a couple. The first time you ate a pregame or a postgame meal at College of Charleston, did you cry? Somebody, did you wonder if they were stealing it? How did that go?
No, you have to understand it. Not only was I, Pam and I joke, we compare everything now. Is it a Division II thing or is it a Division I thing in life? But I wasn't just at Division IIs. I was at Division IIs that, the second cheeseburger was a really big deal. If you got pepperoni on the pizza, you had a big night.
That's been a heck of a road win, right?
So it wasn't just that.
You slipped you 20 on the way out.
Now I'm going to, they're giving me full menus and telling me what to decide on my pregame or my postgame meal. And I'm looking at it like, I've really never had a choice other than cheese or pepperoni. I don't know how to react to this. But the not have to worry. The amount of I got more gear in my first year at Winthrop than I had got in the previous 37 years of coaching. So yeah. Are there differences between Division I and Division II? Yeah. Are there differences between Division I and the Division IIs I coached at? Yeah, the obscure places I coached at, night and day does not
for sure, right?
Does not do it justice.
The other one I wanted to ask you, and I think some people that listen to our show, all 5 of them that listen regular, that are not in my family, they I think would be interested to hear, like in your college settings, you've been at some places where you've had JVs.
Yes.
And that's such I think even guys that, even like Bowles, who's been a unbelievable successful high school coach, I think sometimes like, what is that even about? Like, is that a high school JV? And some people don't understand it. Kind of walk us through what it is for those who don't know. I think it'd be kind of interesting to hear.
Different people do it different ways, but it's if there's a JV program, with the exception of the University of North Carolina, it's an enrollment driven thing, right? What are they trying to do? They're trying to get more students to come to the school. How do you do that? You give an opportunity to play, those kind of things. We did it extremely different than anybody else. We had as many as, I think we had 47 basketball players at Pfeiffer one year. And my assistants did not thank me for this, but our deal was, we're treating the 47th best player better than the best player of our 47. We're working him out every chance we get to do that. He's getting the same amount of love and tough love that anybody else is. And we poured into those kids. Again, this is not JV programs in general. I don't think most people there's a varsity program and then there's a JV program. They're kind of off doing their own thing. The kids get an opportunity, but it's almost, more like a Division III experience. Mm-hmm. Ours was the waiver wire. Like you had a chance to move up to varsity every single day. Like
you might get the call.
You might get a 1-day contract, a 10-day contract. Like we had guys playing the JV game one day and playing the varsity game the next day because they did so good in the JV game the day before. So those kids knew they were really, really being evaluated every single day. And really it was hard. It was crazy. We put so many hours into that. But I have relationships with those guys and they've gone into coaching, that are just unbelievable. And they're so grateful that they were treated the same as everybody else and not looked down on. I said to tell our coaches all the time, JV, has a stigma all to itself. Let's make sure they don't feel any of that from us. And we poured into those kids and loved them and cared deeply about them. And many of those kids, ended up being really good players. We had a JV game one time. We beat think we beat Hargrave, maybe when Keats was the coach there, and we had one kid make 9 threes and another kid make 8 in the same game. Jeff Reynolds was the coach at Wingate at the time. He came up to me after the game and he said, I want you to know we're not playing you at Pfeiffer. And we're not playing your JV team either.
That's good. But I don't know if you know this, in the last couple of years, the D2s have started a JV league now.
Oh, okay.
Which is pretty cool for some of those schools that have to do it, like you said, for trying to get
yeah, we played 10 games. We played 9 home games, so we didn't have to leave the house, and 1 road game at North Carolina every year. So they got a Dean Dome experience every year.
Awesome.
Played before a North Carolina game and got to stay and watch that. So was an unbelievable experience for all of us. And Rob Perrin was my assistant 3 different times. He's the head coach at Catawba now, one of the many guys in my tree. And he had a winning record in the Dean Dome. So I said, Rob, you're like the only coach in the country who has a winning record in the Dean Dome. he's like 3-1 in JV games.
I'm surprised Clemson didn't try to hire him. They could never win at the Dean Dome. That might have been a good hire.
That's right.
I like it. All right. So Bowles, you ready? This is when we bring in the old lightning round. And you walked us through 40 years quick. We appreciate that. There's some good stories on the way there too. And we even got to talk a little fast break. But the lightning round, what we'll do is we'll put the shot clock on, but if you go away, we won't get mad at you. We'll let you.
Okay. All right.
We have some stories within this, but we'll each come up, we each got 4 questions at you. Go ahead, Bowles, you start us off.
All right. So this should be right up Coach's alley. We're going fast here. It's going to be good.
No shot clock needed. Right?
All right. And in all of your years of travel and all the different levels and everywhere, what's the best atmosphere you've ever played in?
At Queens was really, really good. They had this tiny cracker box gym, about 500 people could fit in there. We were fierce rivals, Pfeiffer and Queens in the day. And they sent a note to us. It was you couldn't get in the gym, right? I mean, so there's only one side bleachers and very small. So they said only 100 Pfeiffer fans can come to the game. So we put one of our assistant coaches at a back door of Queens, told the guys where they were sneaking guys into the game. But we had a game there one time, at the bottom of stat sheets, there's all these weird stats and it points off the bench. We scored 100 points off the bench one time at Queens. So that was a great atmosphere, but the other answers are cop-outs. We got to Exhibition Duke. It was amazing how into an exhibition game they were. That was unbelievable experience. And then at North Carolina, they had never sold out an exhibition game in their career. So I told all my friends, don't worry about tickets, just buy one when you come up. It'd be no problem. And some people didn't get in the game. I did not turn out good on that, but it sold out. And they did at exhibitions, they do a first come, first serve, so that the students line up and race. They get to sit in all the wine and cheese seats cool. at the Dean Dome. So that was unbelievable. And we were fortunate enough to press Ty Lawson, not one of my better coaching moves of all time. And North Carolina probably only had 23 dunks in that game. And it felt like the roof was going to come off the building because the students were all down in seats they never got to sit in. They were happy as all get out. And it was, so yeah, that's probably a good one. Another North Carolina funny story was, Roy Williams was the coach, of course. And when I moved to North Carolina, my junior year in high school, we were 5-15 at Mitchell High School. And 2 of our wins were against Owen High School, coached by Roy Williams. So 2 of our 5 wins that I had that year. So I'm walking onto the Dean Dome floor. It is absolutely berserk before the game. It's completely full. I'm about to crap my pants, and a reporter walks up to me and says, Pfeiffer, in the Dean Dome, says, "Are you nervous?" I said, "No, I'm 2-0 against Roy."
That's a great answer.
So I would say those are three of the best atmospheres for sure that I've got to experience.
All right, my next one, and some people may not know this name, but I with all the crazy numbers you're throwing out, I just got to know who's the best shooter that you've ever coached.
That one has competition. The best player I haven't I've coached has no competition in my opinion. That's Tony Smith. 5'7", was 126 pounds when he arrived, 140 pounds when he left. All-time leading scorer in North Carolina college basketball history. The most dominant player I have ever seen at any level, similar to Jordan in the NBA at his height. That's how good Tony was. And he was this just little dude. He was the all-time 3-point maker when he finished. That record has been broken, but Tyler Hansbrough's the all-time leading scorer in the ACC. And Tony scored 800 more points in his career than Tyler Hansbrough did.
That's unbelievable.
His senior year, he was the National Player of the Year, averaged 30 points and 10 assists a game. Amazing. But back to shooters, that competition is probably too tight for me to name one. But we did have one season at Pfeiffer where two guys made over 100 threes, and one shot 51% and the other shot 49% from three. That was Jay Moody and Emery Smith. That's the other thing I feel good about. It's not, we were never about numbers. We're trying to score this many points and get this many shots up. There's none of that. It's just go as fast as you can without turning it over, take great shots, and then go get the shots back. So we had a lot of people shoot really high percentages because we got great shots.
And here's my last one. So this one might be a little different, but we got so many coaches that watch on here, and we like to kind of give guys some different credit. What coach that you coached against did the best job adapting or adjusting to playing you?
Dip Mitras, I would say, at Belmont Abbey, probably. Bart Lundy was really good. I coached against him, at Pfeiffer in Queens, and then he came back to Queens, and then at Newberry in Queens, he was also really good. But Dip would spread his guys out, like you were talking about the different ways of doing it. He would spread his guys out, and like just say in the backcourt, he would put his two guards on each sideline. We're trapping you. We're trying to speed you up. Like, if you don't go fast, we throw another guy at you, so you will go fast, right? Mm-hmm. So he told his guys, I don't care what he does, do not go fast. So they're throwing lob passes back and forth from sideline to sideline while we're running at them like crazy. And so that was pretty good. And then the other strategy that almost no one ever did was really try to attack you, like also try to play fast. Mm-hmm. That was so different for them, but like that is and was the best way. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to exploit you defensively by attacking you. And so there were some teams, and you had to be smart about this, that they were way better when they ran their plays. So like, you never got to run a play against us unless we were allowing it. But there were some teams that, we wanted them to run their plays. Because if they just put their head down and go, they would give us a really hard time. And teams that would do that, did give us a hard time. Just said, forget it. And Lincoln Memorial would do that. We beat them a few times, and I think we scored, 113 at Lincoln Memorial one time. But Josh Schertz, unbelievable coach too. He'd try to do his thing for the first 10 minutes of the game, and then he would just tell his guys, just go. They were better than us, and go. I hope that answered your question.
No, that's good. That's good. You got a lot of names in there. That's always good. Corey reminded me I got one more. So whenever I'm on here, Corey gets some fun questions. You're going to see Corey's here in a second, but okay. I always get the question, if you had to recommend right now, one book that you would recommend. We've had to adjust with with a lot of the younger coaches, with podcast, whatever it is, but what's one thing is kind of a go-to for you?
I've got two books that I just read over and over. Again, I'm not the brightest bulb in the Christmas tree. One-on-One by John Wooden and Jay Carty is just kind of a daily message. I heard Steve say, that this is a ministry, and I thought, what a great way, a great word for coaching. But this book has just helped me in coaching and life and in everything. And I have taken it to clinics. If you want to share my cell phone number, I will send that book to anybody who wants it, that listens to you guys. It's been that powerful in my life. An FCA guy gave it to me who I did not even know. And it's just, every time I read it, I get something different out of it. Really good. And in a purpose-driven life, another really good one, for sure. I would recommend those. It's, coaching is not easy. I got the greatest wife on earth. I got the greatest coaching wife on earth, for sure. And, so many coaches that do it for a long time don't have great family relationships, and it's hard. You put so much time into it, and I've just been blessed to have a girl that has been totally bought into it and helped us along the way. But those are two really good books.
That's awesome. All right. Podcast. Did you have a podcast, Coach? Other than ours, of course. Other than ours.
Corey, getting on this Zoom was a monumental step for me. I'm the least technological human on the planet. I do podcasts when somebody sends it to me, and all I got to do is click it and listen to it. Those are the only ones I've listened of your show so far. So I got to figure out, or you got to send me every episode. So the answer to that is not applicable.
I love it. All right, so we'll go into mine. I'm gonna stick with basketball, and then I'll end with some non-basketball stuff. But give me the, man, yours will be good because you've been around it, and you've been in the obscure, off the beaten path for sure. Worst gym you ever played in?
This is stealing from Tommy Brown, because I would not have really remembered this. But we were in that Tennessee Virginia Athletic Conference. So Queens was bad. It's an unbelievable atmosphere. That was a bad gym. Coker's gym was really bad.
Their old one was bad.
And both of those are now, among the nicest in Division II for sure. So they went from worst to first in facilities at those places. But Virginia Intermont had, you entered the gym through the doors at the end of the gym. You know how everybody has doors at the end of the gym? Well, that was outside at Virginia Intermont. And it was snowing the night we played them. So every time they opened the door, a pile of snow blew onto the court. We were playing the game on.
I love it.
So I would say that that one would be pretty close to the top.
Oh, that's great right there. All right, so give me the we stay pretty positive, but we had to get negative with the worst gym. But give me maybe your worst trip. You've done this a long time at the lower levels. What's the trip? We take sometimes here, when you have to pan them or whatever, and you just go, making it to the game was a win. Forget winning the game. We just made it here. That's a win. Did you ever have any of those?
Oh yeah. We played Covenant. So Lookout Mountain was always an adventure for sure.
Going straight up.
I've told people there are many reasons I should not be alive today. But the 15 passenger van is at the top of that list. The worst trip really was ended up being an unbelievable trip. But this was actually in my golf coaching days. I'm a better golf coach than I am a basketball coach, by the way, Corey. We were ranked number one in Division II in golf at one time. We finished in the top 10, I think 7 different times in my golf coaching career. I got players and sat in the cart and ate cookies, and people were not happy with me, and we'd be kicking their ass. But anyway, we made the NAIA national tournament, and Pfeiffer didn't have the money. They weren't going to send us to to the tournament. So I go in and I'm meeting with the president, and the vice president, and they tell me this. I said, okay, I'll go get the guys so you can tell them. And they look at me. I go, I ain't telling them. I said, they just qualified for the national tournament for the first time in school history, and you're not going to let us go. I said, just let us take a van and we'll go out there and do it. And we took a van that should not have left Meisenheimer and drove Taylor University, Indiana was, I think it's Indiana was the host, and we drove that thing out and back. And seriously, it should not have driven 30 miles. And somehow we got out there and back in that thing and had a life memory experience for those players and for their coach. And we just had an unbelievable time. But that one was probably the greatest adventure because it was so long. But when we played Division I's, we would drive. We were trying to make money. That was a fundraiser for us anytime we could get a Division I game. So we drove to Purdue and very many places, and then just you've lived it. Coaches, especially head coaches, should not be driving vans after losses at midnight.
That is the truth. Been there many times.
Congress should pass a law. Maybe I'll go speak before Congress on that one.
That is the truth.
Oh,
That's good. That's good. All right. So I always like asking this one. I think guys understand it that are on the show. I don't even know if it's one that anybody likes that's watching it, but what's the one time where you kind of thought you arrived, with all the Final Fours and all the people calling to talk to you and meet with you on running fast breaks, and you are the basketball guru of Southeast small time hoops, and then all of a sudden you go to a AAU event and somebody wants to know where the restroom is. They think you work there, or are they wondering what girls team you coach or whatever. When's the one time you kind of got humbled a little bit after you thought you arrived? Do you have any of those stories?
I can't think of them late in my career, but certainly, early in my career, I was 21 when I started coaching in high school. I was a year behind and young graduate and all that kind of stuff. Looked like I was 12 years old. So for the first 10 years of my coaching career, we would walk in and people would say, where's your coach? Can I talk to your coach? So that happened dozens of times. And I would say the 1-win, 21-loss season as a high school coach, which was the greatest learning experience ever. But at the time, I thought I was John Wooden. So that was extremely humbling and really set me up, fortunately, for the rest of my time.
All right, so now we'll go a little bit outside of hoops. I'm a foodie, so give me we'll go down the list real quick. At Warren Wilson, where was your grub place at? Was it on campus or did you have somewhere off campus you went?
There was when I went to school there. Now, it was, forever 1979 is when I got there, and I was young. They had a pub, a bar on campus, and there was a list of like 5 names that couldn't drink beer. I was one of them until November, but that was a really good place. So I would say that I don't even know if that's still there, but
there's a recruiting pitch for Warren Wilson right there.
Yeah, did they brew their own beer? Was that one of the jobs? Probably
the only thing they didn't make, but they probably got that figured out by now.
All right. What about at Barton?
At Barton, Eastern North Carolina, barbecue was really good. There's a place called Dick's Hot Dog Stand. It's kind of world famous, and there was another pub we went to there. It was really good, and I'm just really feeling bad that I can't remember it because we used to go there all the time, but I cannot remember the name of it.
What about at Pfeiffer? You were there a long time, obviously 19 years. Did you have some spots you hit pretty regular?
You guys won't believe this story. So when I started at Pfeiffer, they had a couple places that had breakfast and lunch, but nothing after lunch. You had to drive 10 miles to get a hamburger. That's how far out Pfeiffer was. it's a metropolitan area now. It's got a McDonald's, a Wendy's. In fact, Wendy's was the first one to come. Another great story. I met the manager before Wendy's opened, and always looking for deals, right? And this guy gave me food there half price. So 98 out of 100 meals that my players ate had fiber came from Wendy's. So every one of them would say that upon graduation. I will never ever eat at a Wendy's again. And then you know how you give them their senior awards, and we would give them the books that I told you about, and pictures from their whole time, newspaper clip. We saved everything for them. Pam did an unbelievable job. We would put this unbelievable gift package together for us, and we gave it to them in like one of those grocery size Wendy's bags.
Oh, I love it. I love it. They were scared to death to open it. Yes. Double stacks might be in there. They were a little worried.
Yeah, no doubt.
Good. What about at Newberry?
Newberry's no, it really is an amazing place. They got an opera house in town, about a 400 or 500 seat performing arts theater. Was built in the late 1800s for $15,000 and renovated about 10 years ago for $15 million. So they bring in like 100 shows a year. Old musical people and theater and dance and all kinds of incredible stuff. And because of that, there's 3 5-star restaurants actually in Newberry. So Figaro's really good. Cabana's really good. A couple other places, the Palms off the beaten path, really good as well. Yeah.
I like it. All right. So we got our last 2 here, Winthrop and then College of Charleston.
You know, it was weird. We really only lived in Rock Hill for a little bit. We lived in Newberry my first year at Winthrop. Pam's mom was with us, and so we were taking care of her. And so I don't know that I have a Rock Hill place for you, but at the College of Charleston, you know, if you're not paying, you got to go to Hall's Chop House. Is a steakhouse that's just ridiculous good. It's a really good breakfast and lunch place on King Street called Virginia's that we really like as well. But Charleston, as you can imagine, is just endless with places.
What's the barbecue place?
There's so many different ones, but my favorite is Hometown. Is they got a couple different places where it's, but yeah. I didn't even know that barbecue was a thing in Charleston until we got here. But wow, amazing.
All right, so last question here, and then we can start wrapping it up. What do the people back home in New England area think of this Carolina guy now? I mean, you've really become a South Carolina, North Carolina guy.
It's really been awesome in Division I deal, because we my first game at Winthrop was at Hartford, so I had a ton of family and friends come to that one. We played Northeastern this year, so up in Boston. So I got to have a bunch of those folks come to that game, and then all the places we played. You know, I mean, I've been coaching 40 years. I got former players living in every place, you know, in America and other places. So I always have players coming to games that I've coached, and you know that I've heard several people on your podcast say it, but you know, the pay for this young coaches is relationships. You know, build them, man. It's unbelievable. My Father's Days and Christmases now are so awesome. And I, you know, going to former players' weddings and them calling when they have their first, second, third children's just amazing stuff. My wife did one of the cool, I turned 60 this year, and she got my phone and texted all my former players and coaches and friends and asked them to send me a birthday card with a memory, just one memory. So we got like 200 plus birthday cards, and her and I sat on the couch and just read those things and laughed and cried till we were going crazy. And you know, the relationships like you and I have, Corey, you know, we might see each other every 5 years, talk once a year, like that. That's what this is. It's so amazing, such an unbelievable profession, and so large, so widespread, but then also, you know, so close knit. So really amazing stuff.
It's awesome. Well, we're at the end here. Is there anybody, you know, you'd want to thank, or anybody you want to talk about that maybe you didn't get to, or anything you want to hit on?
I've been blessed with an unbelievable coaching tree. The relationships I have with former coaches and guys that worked for free or so close to free, it should have been called free, and then went on to fame and fortune, and so proud of them, and so fun to follow them for sure. My former players, make the whole thing happen, and just so many incredible memories. I think we're in the memory making business after so many years, and looking back at it, not really realizing what you're doing while you're doing it, but you're creating memories for your players, your assistant coaches, the students at your school, the faculty at your school, the community around your school. And it's a really, really neat thing. And we've been able to do that at several places. And of course, that's been really fun. And and then my wife, the greatest wife and the greatest coaching wife of all time. I wish that for every coach on the planet. If you can find someone who will love you and support you through the ups and downs of this crazy business, you found someone incredibly special, and I have.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, Bowles, you want to wrap us up?
All right, Coach, we appreciate you. That was, I think we're rivaling Ryan Marks for our longest one, the 40 years. It's hard to get in our hour, but it was awesome. So we appreciate you sharing. And, Corey talks about all the time. This is not one of those podcasts where we're a self-help group or anything like that, but it's when young coaches listen to this and hear some of those things about the memories and all the stuff, hopefully that kind of inspires some guys to stay in it when it might be tough. And so we appreciate you sharing.
I'll say this, Daniel, one more thing. I don't think it's ever been harder right now with all the different changes in the world and in our basketball world to be a coach. I think it's the absolute hardest time, especially a high school coach. But they've also never needed us more. Like, the people you are coaching have never needed you more. They've never needed someone that will hold them accountable, that will teach them what is right and wrong, because they're not getting that anywhere else. So all you guys that might be going through tough times, as you kind of just said, Daniel, or experience frustrating times, try to hang in there and keep fighting, because they need us.
I like that. We're the last Cowboys.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, thank you to Coach for coming on today, and hopefully some of those that are listening will keep up with our podcast on social media. For those tech savvy guys, our Instagram is @offbeatenpath podcast, and our Twitter is @offbeatenpath_. Thanks for listening to our Off the Beaten Path podcast.
And we really thank Coach for coming on. Coach, he's one of those guys. He's a coach's coach. He'll talk to anybody, meet anybody, go over anything. He's done it with me 2 or 3 times. When he comes recruiting, he doesn't ever get to recruit, because if there's any other coaches there, they just talk to him and pick his brain the whole time. So that's the reason he doesn't beat anybody out, like he said earlier. It's really not scholarship he offered, it's that. But Coach is the best, man. I really appreciate you. And this is a show for those who want to coach, those who used to coach, those who are thinking about getting into coaching, and those who are coaches, those who follow coaches, and unfortunately those who fire them, and fortunately those who hire them. And we hope you enjoyed our podcast, and we'll be coming back with some more Off the Beaten Path. Appreciate you, Coach.
Great being with you.